Foremost, thanks everyone for coming out today. We really appreciate your attendance at this very important meeting. It's a historical day for us all, and we're going to take a long conversation about all the parameters of the health benefit trust that we're forming here. So it's a good opportunity to ask many, many questions and leave with a clear mind as to what we're accomplishing, and we encourage the opportunity to engage in dialogue. So my name is John Mannion from Armstrong, Doyle & Carroll. With me is Bob Miller, and I'll turn it over to Bob.
So, John's my co-pilot. I'm the pilot of this plane right now, and we have a very interesting journey to tell you about. Before we get there, I'm Bob Miller. I'm from the Delaware Valley Friends School. I'm the CFO there, and for the last year or so, I've been in charge of trying to get our MIWA and our new health plan into existence. And today's a very happy day because we are really getting there. So, but before we start, I'd like to introduce some people. You've already met John Mannion of Armstrong, Doyle & Carroll. John Doyle, his boss, is here also. Without them, this whole process would have been impossible. And another group that's made this work possible is the people who agreed to be the initial trustees for our health plan and trust. And I want to introduce them to you, for those who are here. Is Rosalie here? Hasn't made it. Okay, Rosalie Jones is a trustee. Joan Barone. Okay, Carol Lerner is here. And Martha Skach, I think, is on the webinar, so we can't hear her shout, but she's there. And our illustrious John Berg from PAFA is, there he is. John, wherever you are, wave your arm. So the trustees have been working very, very, very hard to get this thing up and running. They took a huge amount of responsibility. And one of the key things that they did first was some of them gathered together with a group of other volunteers from various schools and colleges to interview third-party administrators, a process that went on for a couple months. And I'd also like to recognize and thank those folks. Casey Bernard, Jamie Caroli, Mark Gibbons, Soph Horn, Marty Mataskuska, Nadia Murray, Christine Schaefer, Pam Sheeran, Michelle Todd, Joe Van Burnham, and Helen Zeglinski. We spent a huge amount of time doing interviews and reading materials. We had one proposal we sent out an RFP that was probably 30 pages, I forget. One of the responses was 102 pages. There was a lot of heavy reading, a lot of heavy lifting. And John Mannion was instrumental in helping us with that and collecting that together into something that we could think about. Let's see, so I've thanked the brokers. I haven't thanked Emily Miller, without whose help we couldn't have gone through this whole process. She provided great backup, great food all the time. Hey, Emily. And her staff, of course. And then Andrea Meehan and her associates from Blue Cross are here. You'll be hearing from them later. They've been our partners for 45 years now, at least, we think. This health plan has gone on for 45 years already. And then finally, our newest partners from Business Solver, Mike Meyering and Steve English, who you'll be hearing from later. So that's the group right now, and then of course all of you. This is a trust. This organization we created is a member-based organization. It only goes as far and as fast as you make it possible to go. So we've done a whole lot of work in the last year and a half to make this possibility happen. And it was, from our point of view, a live or die kind of equation, because what we were faced with when the ACA regulations came out, I think it was January of 2013, we were faced with the probability that without forming a MIWA, a multi-employer welfare arrangement, that we could lose as many as this year, a third of our members. In another 2 years, 2/3 of our member institutions would lose the ability to purchase health insurance together. Lord knows what alternative was still going to be available to them, but that was what we faced, and we decided we had to fight it with both hands. And and so for a year and a half, that's what we've been doing: studying, researching, and then moving ahead. So there's a little calendar indicating some of the main dates in this process, and I want you to think about it, since I introduced you to my co-captain here, as a kind of journey. All right, a flight to the future in one way, and a flight to nowhere on the other hand, because what we promised to you last August, when we met last August to get your approval for forming the MIWA, we promised you that the plan that we would bring forward would be as close as possible to what we had at that point in time. One, we thought what we had at that point in time was pretty good, pretty incredible, and we wanted to maintain it. And we wanted to introduce as little change as possible, at least in the first year, so that people weren't confronted with the unknown. And I think what you'll find today, that the key theme running through today's presentations is the theme of continuity, the theme of documentary change, surface change, and certainly legal change in terms of the entity that we are. But in terms of the content, those are the forms, the documents, the legal structure are the form. The content is pretty much what you've gotten used to, what you love, what your employees want. So that's what the promise was that we made in August, and I think we're delivering it today. We've been delivering it for the last month. So let's see, do we have the slide? John, can you do a slide for me? Showing the dates. Well, first of all, show me the agenda. Show me anything. There we go. Okay, so what we're going to do today is, first part, I'm going to update you on the MIWA process. Two, we're going to indicate what the scope of the benefits plans are that the trust will be offering to you, which extends slightly beyond medical, but to those plans you're used to having us provide. Then we're going to have our attorneys, part three, come up and explain the various documents we've been sending to you, what you need to pay attention to, what you could probably take for granted. This will be important guidance for you in coming to sign them, in consulting other people at your institution, a lawyer if you choose. Then we will move on to a presentation from our new third-party administrator, Business Solver, getting to understand what their services capabilities are. Then John will take you down the nightmare path to compliance with ACA. We've all been worried about that and anticipating that. I think you'll be happy with the ending of his nightmare story. And then finally, our friends and long-term partners from IBC will be talking about how this new arrangement lands with them, and then also some things changes that are going on for them that will affect us. Independent of the MIWA status, these are changes in the works at IBC that are going to happen to us one way or the other. So, John, you want to move me forward to the calendar? I'll try and go through this quickly. So, what you did in August when you agreed, we all voted unanimously. I think one abstention. We authorized Paisboa to go ahead and form the MIWA. It was kind of like saying authorizing a trip. You're okay to arrange for a plane, itinerary, whatever. Move ahead and get back to us on this wonderful trip we're going to take. The first order of affairs, which we started in October and we pursued aggressively through March, it's now in a somnambulant stage, is we submitted all the documentation necessary to the Department of Labor to substantiate the multi-employer welfare arrangement. And they raised only very minor questions, objections. So far, there is no objection that they've made to our coming into being as a multi-employer welfare association, and we are moving aggressively forward to do that. The only thing they couldn't tell us is exactly when they would get back to us. Bureaucrats being bureaucrats, he said there was a lot of work to do, there were a lot of applications, and they couldn't give us a deadline, but we gave them one. We said May 1st, we have to move ahead with our insurer, we have to move ahead with our TPA. And so happily, From the period from January through April, we were able to interview and select a third-party administrator. So that piece is in place. In other words, the entity that will receive the handoff from our brokers and from our insurance company and from all of us and carry us forward to combined billing and combined billing and combined management of our health insurance products is in place. The key day really was late April. We promised you May 1st. Last week of April, the two things that were accomplished. One, we did select that TPA after months of review and investigation. And two, we met with Blue Cross and got the go-ahead to insure, starting November 1st, continue to insure as of November 1st, our entire membership, all 140-odd schools that we are. So that was really the beginning of the next stage. So let's see here. Okay, in order to move ahead, we asked you what we asked you to do at the end of April, early May, is we asked you to authorize Blue Cross to send the information about your employees to Business Solver so they could start the process of setting up the massive database that they have to manage our accounts. And this is the form. You may remember it. Asks a couple questions and it needs a signature. Without this, John can hand it around. I have to say, all but 8 schools have already sent this thing back. And the 8 schools that haven't, you know who you are, get on it. Because, for 2 reasons. One is IBC needs to send 1 data file over. Okay, not 142. They need to send the information for our entire, so the 8 of you are holding the rest of us back. That's the bottom line. Now here's the other thing about it. This is not signing up to be part of the MIWA, okay? This is signing up to deliver information so that you can be considered to be part of the MIWA. The actually signing the documents that you've been sent and you will look at today is the purchase of the ticket. This is just making the reservation. If you don't make the reservation soon, how can IBC and Business Solver give you a seat on the plane? So if you're not absolutely convinced yet that you're going to be part of the MIWA, send this in anyway. No excuse not to. You're holding the rest of us back. I need to get on this plane. If you don't need to get on the plane, God bless you. But I need to get on this plane. We need to reserve together. So going forward, next slide, John. July 1st, you're going to see a bunch of documents today. The lawyers are going to explain them. I'm not going to talk about them. They have to be signed back to us no later than July 1st, right? Because IBC needs some time to actually calculate the rates for us. And they can't calculate the rates unless they know who's in the group. So sending this back will be a sign that you want to be a reservation. They'll know how to proceed. But if they don't know on July 1st that you are going to actually be on this plane, then that's a problem. So please, please, do whatever you have to study these documents, have someone study them, but get them into us because July 1st we have to start moving with incredible speed. One of the reasons is we intend to have rates back this year by early August, not middle August, early August. Andrew will explain to you why all the deadlines have to move forward this year. Has nothing to do with the MIWA, it has a lot to do with change in organization down there. But for us, what it comes down to is we are going to have that meeting we have where you get your packets sometime in early August, think first week, okay? So things are moving up. Every deadline is going to move up. Then finally, October 15th, for the first time, you're going to get a bill, not from IBC. You're going to get bills from the trust. Business Solver is going to make them up. They're going to send you a bill based on the information you've given them about the renewal. You're going to have till you're going to have 5-6 days to review that and make any changes. And then when you send it back, you're going to get billed. I mean, you're going to pay as billed. You've had a chance to verify the bill That's what you're going to pay for. If you made a mistake, you make a change after that, we'll clear it up the next month. Because October 23rd, you're going to pay. Either you're going to have us sweep money out of your account into the trust account, or you're going to push it over with an electronic check. But 100% of us are going to pay our bill on October 23rd, so that November 1st, this prepaid flight to nowhere is taken off November 1st. So does that make clear to you? I hope it makes clear to everybody what the real deadlines are. We need to get, right now we need to get the authorization to transfer information back immediately. And by, as soon as possible, but no later than July 1st, we need to have the participation agreement filled out and signed.
And I see people are furiously scribbling notes. This presentation will be made available, so if you need to give it to others, that's fine. We'll obviously make it available as a PDF this afternoon for you to pass around.
And everything I said is pretty much on the agenda, okay? All those dates are there. The important ones are highlighted, so, you'll have plenty of chance to ask questions as we go through this. But I think that summarizes where we are for this flight to nowhere, this flight to a very familiar place, Philadelphia, same health insurance plans, hopefully, and better rates and all those wonderful things. And here's the real punchline, is when you hear about these services that are being added on through the introduction of the third-party administrator, services that affect how you manage benefits in your school right now, plus the benefit of being able to handle all the government reporting with ease, without worry. When you hear everything that's going to be provided, first question on your mind is how much? And what I have to tell you is we are attempting to do this because we're business people and because we know the realities of the schools right now. We're trying to add all this service without incrementing the rates that you've been paying in the past. I mean, other than what, well, I'm sure that IDC's given us a rate cut this year, right? Isn't that in order? Yeah. So hopefully in bulk, but we don't intend for the new servicing system to cost us more. It may, but we're going to do our best to have it not. And we have a couple of theories about how we'll proceed with that. So thanks to that TPA committee doing wonderful research and hard bargaining with the vendors, we have got a first-class third-party administrator organization with technology out the ears, and they're doing it for us at a very modest price. You're going to find that a lot of work that you're used to doing in your office is going to be offloaded for almost no cost. You'll be able to put those employees to work doing other things that are more useful. So that's our hope anyway. I think that's it. So we're going to move on now to, are there any questions about any of that, by the way? Yeah. Oh, we're going to hand the microphone around so that your question is on the webinar.
When's the target date for the feed from IBC to Business Solver? When will that happen?
The initial data feed?
Yeah.
Next week?
As soon as we get authorizations from everybody.
That's,
We're literally waiting for 8 schools.
yeah.
And as soon as we have the sign off from those 8 remaining schools, that's the packet right there. I was intending to give it to Andrea today, and that's mostly everyone in this room who's already authorized to have your enrollment data sent over to Business Solver to build the back-end architecture. So I've been hounding you, and I apologize, but I had to do what I had to do, and I'm going to do it with the last 8 schools through the rest of this week. On Monday, we want to send the file. Does that answer your question, Helen? Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? There you go.
I just wasn't sure if I heard you say, has the Department of Labor approved the MIWA?
They have not gotten back to us with the letter yet. What they have done is they spent several months talking with our attorneys. We've asked for information. We sent information in. We've said they have not raised, and the attorneys can speak to this, any objection to what we're doing. If anything, they've expressed the notion is, wow, if you only had this in place already, it would be easier for us. But we told them May 1st was our deadline, that we needed to have feedback back. They said they could not tell us what date they were going to respond officially. So we took their absence of a no to be an effective yes, given our circumstances. Blue Cross understands it pretty much the same way. There's no reason why this application should be turned down, that the letter should not come out. And given the realities of insuring over 10,000 people together, we decided that we could move ahead. So for the first year, this deal is in place. It's not going to go away, okay? This is the only way we're going to be able to operate for the next year. If the Department of Labor coughs and sputters or does anything negative, then that will have to affect not 14-15, but 15-16, okay? And our anticipation is that there's never zero chance, but we're not anticipating at all that that the letter won't come out in the form that we need it. But Harry, you want to add anything to that?
No, really just to second what Bob has said, and we're working with the DOL at the highest levels of the department, division that reviews these sort of letters, and they're engaged. And as Bob has said, we've had a number of different dialogues with them, and we've provided them what they've asked for. So from our perspective, the wheels are turning in the right direction, but it's just taking a lot of time.
Thank you. I'm sorry, in my introductions, John just pointed out I forgot two very important people, our attorneys, Harry Atlas and Tora Johnson from Venable is the name of the law firm. They came up from Baltimore. They've been working very hard for us. Any other questions on, yeah?
I kind of went over this with our finance committee last night. I only have one question.
Sure.
If an employer was unable to meet their payment obligations electronically and defaulted, does the MIWA have insurance or some mechanism for the recovery of those funds? So the employees are enrolled, it's time to make the payment, and the electronic payment couldn't be made because of poor financial position of the school.
I think we haven't worked out all the details of this, but I think our operating assumption is that Business Solver will transfer over to IBC all the payments that come in, and then we will chase down the payments that didn't come in. It's against state law to cut somebody off on a day. In order to protect the employees, the insurance companies have to offer a 30-day grace period, during which the employees continue to be covered, claims continue to be paid. And they have the position that they're entitled to recover the premium for that month. And we would have the same attitude. We will definitely chase down the payment. And we'll be very aggressive about it. It won't start at the end of the next month or the middle of next month. It'll start October 24th, okay? And
It's a 1 month exposure. At the end of that month, coverage would end.
yeah, and, when you think about it practically, out of all the bills on your desk, which one are you going to let not get paid? Your health insurance? Very doubtful. Any other questions?
I guess the confirmation is a 1 month, that's the complete exposure?
Yes. And you all know how long it takes IBC to pay a claim, so, Right? The pharmacy bills, those costs will be paid, but, anything more than that, chances that it won't be paid before it's canceled are very slim. So we think this is a negligible risk. It's a risk that we cannot erase, but we think it's a negligible risk, and one that we could probably recoup. I can't imagine that we couldn't. Any other questions about this stuff? Because then we'll move on. All right, so we said that what you're going to be looking at in terms of health plans for next year is going to be as similar to last year as possible. We always know something changes from year to year, but John Main is going to quickly outline those benefits that are going to be covered under the trust immediately and those that may be added on later in the year or next year. John?
Thank you, Bob. There's a little bit of a feedback issue with the microphone here, so how's that? That's better. All right, thank you. Yeah. Tom Taft. I saw you eating donuts back there. I'm going to chastise you after this meeting. When we looked at our participation agreement, there was a section in there that asked you to identify your component benefit plans, and I got a lot of questions back from people saying exactly what does that mean. The component benefit plans are what's articulated on the screens behind me, and what we're asking you to do is list your medical plans that you currently offer, along with your prescription drug plans that you currently offer, but also incumbent in that is vision if you offer it. Not all of the Paisboa Trust schools offer a vision plan, but if you do, and that would be the $75 freestanding or the $100 rider, please articulate that. And then lastly, the dental. Dental is part of the component benefit plans because we have 106 schools in the Paisboa Delta Dental Trust. So that's one of the offerings that Business Solver is going to allow us to use as a feed. So that's one of the component benefit plans that we want to look at because we found that we really have two primary dental carriers out there. Obviously, the lion's share is Delta Dental, but then there's a large portion with United Concordia. If that is not either one of your camps, you can articulate that as well. It's outside the purview of the component benefit plans, but you can list it as well. That's for this year. Moving forward into the future years, what we're anticipating doing is offering as additional component benefit plans life and disability and flexible spending offerings. And the rationale follows the logic that we just employed. We have a Paisboa Unum Life and Disability Trust, which has 70 schools in it currently. So it operates on the same methodology as the medical, the dental, and life and DI. We weren't ready to go there in the 2014-15 rollout, but we should be able to with the 15-16 rollout. That's not necessary to articulate that with your component benefit plans on this participation agreement, but we wanted to just give you a heads up that we're looking to expand that as we move forward. Was there a hand here from Carolyn or no?
Yeah, you're saying indicate on our renewal?
No, on the participation agreement.
That's in here.
Correct.
Repeat it, John.
On the participation agreement that was emailed out last week, there's a section asking for an articulation of your component benefit plans. And the question was, what does that mean? And what it means is, please tell me, GA's medical plans, GA's RX. Does GA have vision? And what is GA's dental?
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Wait for the microphone.
No HSA information.
No HSA information is necessary at this time. Possibly Cindy down the line will incorporate that, but there is no initiative to take that on right now. So there is only the need for, again, on the component benefit plans, what is your medical? What is your drug? What is your vision if it is part of the plan? And lastly, the dental. So hopefully that's clear.
Mailed out last week?
It was emailed out last week.
Email.
Email.
Part of this, right?
That's it. Tora is holding it up, and it came from me, and I didn't get any bounce backs, and I cleared out my spam filter, and it's time for you to clean out yours.
And we'll be going over, the lawyers will be going over that document, that form in detail. So you can hold the detailed questions on that. The difference between having certain plans covered in the trust and not has to do with implementation issues, timing, et cetera. It also has a little bit to do with volume, okay? We've arranged very good pricing with them already to add on flexible spending account in life and disabilities. In fact is they will, on a one-to-one basis, as soon as it's possible to do it, they will allow you to use their tool, and they'll go into detail on this, their website, to manage any benefits plans that you want to. However, there is a setup charge for each new plan, each new vendor, okay? We're trying to share the cost of setting up those plans amongst the number of schools to minimize the cost. In the end, if you really want to do it yourself and you want to do it right away, you can pay them to set up your individual plan if you're the only one that has, what would it be, some dental plan that nobody else has. If you want to pay them to do that, they'll do it, okay? So we'll get into that more when we get to the implementation. But for the great advantage of using the Paisboa plans that already exist is we're negotiating group rates for those things, and we've negotiated a group rate with Business Solver to manage the detail for you. So whatever investment we're making in Business Solver pays off for you more and more and more, the more of our plans that you use or the more of the plans that you put into it. So that's the reason for why we're proceeding the way that we are. Any other questions on plans?
Mindy.
Okay, so we already have the Unum plan. So for this year, we're going to continue to pay Unum directly, and then for next year, we're going to pay Business Solvers?
No, what you're going to be able to do is, on a consolidated billing basis, feed your data through Business Solver to Unum and wipe your hands of the paper bill, if you're interested in rolling it up to a consolidated bill.
And you'll be paying the trust. For the plans that are being sponsored by the trust, so when the trust takes over the Unum plan, then you'll be sending one payment per month to the trust. It'll take care of paying all the entities that have to be paid.
Okay, I also have a question about FSA. My school likes a 9/1 start date for the FSA because that's when we get our new employees, and we don't want the liability of starting in January and then someone leaving in September.
Right.
Is that going to be available?
Yes.
Okay.
So the question for those of you that are online and who might not have heard is, with FSA, Mindy likes to have a 9/1 start rate. We have people with 1/1s, we have people with 11/1s, and that is not crucial in terms of the start date. What's crucial is the data feed that would go from you and your employees to Business Solver to manage. So that's what we're talking about here, but in terms of eligibility and timelines, that still rests with you. Am I misspeaking, Mike? Okay, Mike gave me a head nod that we're okay there.
Okay.
Yeah. One thing, for those who weren't involved in the, most of you weren't, for the handful of people that were involved in the TPA investigation, we spent a lot of time on this, okay? One of the critical things that people had to be able to provide to even bid on the business was the ability to work with all the variability of the independent schools. This touches one part of it, but there are many, many, many areas in which we try to protect your ability to decide your medical plans, your benefit plans yourself. That affects eligibility. Well, as we go through it, you'll see it affects eligibility, waiting periods, everything. And it's only because Business Solver and the other bidders had extremely robust 21st century software technology that they were able to commit to being able to handle that variability. But that was step one in looking at our business. And a couple people refused to bid on our business because they weren't sure they could handle that variability.
Rick.
Bob, you mentioned the trust a couple of times. The trust will be receiving the payments from each member school. So I guess who's the trust? You know, who's going to do the accounting for this money? Will there be an annual report? You know, an audit done? You know, insurance provided for the people who are handling the money? I realize it's all going to be electronic, flowing through banks and all, but you know, there's still going to be exposure and some reporting responsibility back to the members with regard to the trust.
Okay, good series of questions, and I'm not going to repeat them all, but I'll try and answer them collectively.
Some of them for the people on the webinar.
If you want to do that,
So the question was the mechanics of the sweeps that are coming in, the payments that are coming out, and then the oversight of those cash flows. Right, Rick? Okay, so go ahead, Bob.
So Rick asked us about auditing, he asked us about monitoring, he asked us about insurance. He asked us all those good business officer questions. Thank you. Fortunately, the group of people who are trustees are business officers, HR people for independent schools and colleges. And so these questions have not been at any distance from our mind. We've been discussing it with our insurance brokers. We've been discussing them, obviously, with our attorneys. And we've been discussing them with our partners, the TPA and the brokers. So understand that we do not plan on having employees for the trust. First of all, the trust is us. It's the collectivity of schools. We are partners in this enterprise. Equal partners in this enterprise. We all have one vote. And we all have the same financial concerns, the same liability concerns. So they're being dealt with very seriously. Just to sum it up, we will have, the trust will have its own account. Monies that are swept or pushed from the schools will go into that account and then be swept over to IBC and the other vendors on the first of the month. All of the mechanics for doing that will be set up through the TPA's software. So we won't have to have somebody writing checks or pulling switches. It's all going to happen automatically. There'll be oversight on a monthly basis by the trustees. We'll probably hire some kind of CPA or controller or something, some kind of vendor to do the monthly bank reconciliations. And then, yes, absolutely, once a year, there will be an audit. It's required by law. We will have it. The monitoring will occur on a monthly basis. And I assume that the Board of Trustees will meet at least quarterly to review that stuff. But somebody will be looking at it every month.
That's right, and just to add, there will be a 5,500 reporting, so that'll be all disclosed and audited and publicly available.
Will all that be documented somewhere? All we
Yes. Sorry. Yes, it will all be documented. Okay. I know I haven't thought about it yet, but we will document all that. A lot of this is a work in progress. For example, the insurance requirements and stuff. The bank account was just set up, so put it this way: before we become fully operational, July 1st, you'll have written answers to these questions. One of the purposes of this meeting is to generate exactly all these questions that need to have documented answers. So you will have them documented.
What plans will be included in the first filing of the 5,500 for the MIWA? Just medical?
Medical, vision,
Dental.
RX, dental,
Dental,
right now. Yeah. We will add on life and disability and FSA as soon as it's reasonable to do it. John's really talked about it as a second-year thing. We don't know how good, how fast we are, but we would add those on whenever it's reasonable to do so.
Want to go through this?
Hmm?
Should we go through this?
Yeah, sure. Well, the next stage is to hear from our attorneys. These are the documents that are involved. It's just a simple listing of them. You have it in your booklet. So I don't see any reason to go through them. We'll go through them one by one. The first three are legal documents that relate you to the trust, you as individual schools to the trust. The last two are essentially part of the plan documents. You've been seeing them every August, so these are samples from last August. These are define your relationship to the health plans being offered by IBC and others, okay? But our attorneys will have the podium next, and they will go through what these documents are and answer any questions that you may have on them, okay? So John, switch us over.
Okay. So what we're going to do is have Harry and Tora come up to the podium, since they're on the microphone and the camera here, and it's being recorded. So we'll have this for all time. And they're going to review the participation agreement in detail and field any questions that might arise. So, why am I Jen?
To start with, we thought it would be helpful to provide just an overview of the different entities and players here, because there are a number of them. At the top, we have the schools. The schools are this enterprise, and the schools they've authorized the Health Benefit Trust to come into existence. The schools will appoint the trustees of the Health Benefit Trust and of course, pay premiums into the trust. Off to the side is Paisboa. In order to participate in the trust by DOL rule, a school or a college has to be a member of Paisboa. But Paisboa is a separate legal entity from the trust. And the trust has hired service providers, Business Solver, Armstrong Doyle Carroll, and has hired insurers, IBC and Delta Dental.
And that structure ties to the plan documentation. And so you'll see on the left-hand side that the trust has set up and sponsors the Paisboa Health Benefits Plan. And the document that you have in your notebook is that plan document, and it's known in the industry as a WRAP plan, summary plan description. So it's a combined document that covers both of those requirements that have been in place forever under ERISA. And it's a WRAP plan because it wraps around the insurance policies that are issued by IBC. So it wraps around the medical plans and the dental plans, the vision plans, and the RX, which are the component benefit plans. And that is all done by the trust. On the right-hand side, you see what each participating school may choose to have, and most of you probably do have, is the Section 125 cafeteria plan. That's your responsibility, but if you have that written plan document in place, it allows your employees to pay their premiums for those component benefit plans on a pre-tax basis. And then each school, to be able to participate in the health benefit plan, need to be Paisboa members because of the DOL regulations, and you need to execute a participation agreement, which we're going to walk through, which includes all of your plan design features that you currently select and can continue to select under the MIWA, and also terms and conditions of participating in the MIWA. And then the other piece of paper, which was just mentioned, that you will fill out is your actual plan selections, and that's the same paper that you're used to seeing year after year. But so this structure ties very directly to what Harry was just reviewing as far as the entities at play here.
Just to actually walk through the participation agreement, what we've done with the participation agreement is we have tried to.
Word one more.
Oh, great.
It's a two-page document. There you go.
Oh, okay. What we've tried to do with the participation agreement is to allow as much customization as is possible. We're certainly recognized that different schools have different practices in regard to eligibility and waiting periods. The key here is that with the onset of the Affordable Care Act, for those schools that are large, and even for some details, all schools are subject to certain constraints imposed by law. So the goal of this document is to allow each school to customize their front-end eligibility provisions as much as possible within the confines of law.
So the first is very easy. That's just your identifying information and the plan year.
Plan year. The eligibility section, we start with a note at the top that if you're a large employer, you have to be mindful of the Affordable Care Act, because under the Affordable Care Act, there's an obligation to make an offer of affordable minimum value coverage to full-time employees, which is a complicated concept, or alternatively to potentially face penalties. With that in mind, we start with the first selection between A and B.
Well, so that in itself is also complicated, but for next year, it's generally any school over 100 employees, including your part-timers. So you have to add in part-time hours.
On an equivalency basis.
On an equivalency basis. And you need to meet certain bells and whistles in a transitional rule, essentially that you're not cutting back insurance for the 2015 year. Then when we get to 2016, it drops down to 50 as being a large employer. So if you're over 50, you're large, which is unusual because you wouldn't typically think of over 50. But again, you need to take into account part-time employee hours.
Is the measure for one full-time equivalent the 30 hours that's written into the law, or a normal 40 hours? Which is it?
Well, you add all your hours up of your part-timers, and then you divide by 120 hours, and then you figure out month by month, and then you average. It's a very complicated, and I believe, John Mannion, you're speaking to this on
Before your
June.
heads all explode, because I'm
Right.
seeing the gnashing of teeth and the wrenching of hair. We're going to do an entire standalone presentation on June 4th here, and also via webinar, to review this very sticky, tricky parameter of the ACA 4980, and make sure that everyone leaves that clear. This speaks to those provisions, but I don't think that we necessarily need to get so bogged down, because we'll have a standalone presentation on something which is very important on that. Thank you.
That's absolutely right. And the importance here is just to point out today that there are additional bells and whistles when you look at who's eligible under each school's plan, depending upon whether or not you need to comply with the employer mandate. And that's if you are over 50 in 2016 and over 100 in 2015.
So the first choice between A and B is to indicate if you happen to cover all employees, even if they're part-time, you would select A. If you limit coverage to full-time employees, you would select B and insert the number of hours per week, with the caveat that if you are a large employer, you cannot require more than 30 hours a week. Yes?
Harry, this is where I got confused. This is where I got confused. Our requirement is that all full-time employees are covered and all part-time employees over 1,000 hours per year are covered, which is certainly in excess of the Affordable Care Act, but I couldn't figure out how to fill this out.
So again, this may be something you want to defer until the June 4th educational seminar, but the rules are changing, and there are only two methods under the Affordable Care Act to count to 30. And one of them is known as a monthly measurement method, where you look back at your prior month and you say, did I extend coverage to anybody who on average worked 30 hours or more a week? Or there's a more complicated look-back measurement period where you can actually, you have the potential of excluding people if you choose to for up to a year.
It sounds like to me, Hal, you would answer this by putting in 20 hours per week, that for health insurance purposes, a qualifying employee for you is 20 hours or more. So that's the effective definition of full-time for health insurance purposes. And we could probably change the language a little bit in presenting this to clarify that, okay? So there's full-time in the real world, there's the 30 hours full-time as far as ACA is concerned, and then there's your own definition of who becomes eligible for health insurance. One guideline is if your eligibility level is well short of 30 hours, that's a great protection for you for not violating the ACA, which we can talk more about later. But so keep in mind there's those three definitions. They've made this very complicated for us.
I just wanted to add to that because we agonized over these paragraphs, and when the ACA means full-time, they mean 30 hours. It's not our definition of full-time. So at my school, everyone is eligible who's over 24 hours a week or 60%. So I would put 24 hours and I would call them full-time employees because that's the way the ACA. We tried to change this to make it the definitions that we say, but then that conflicts with the Affordable Care Act, and Harry suggested that we do it this way. So I hope that's a little more clear, but full-time is just, is a definition of, benefit eligible in this circumstance.
It almost makes sense to just put a parenthesis and say exactly that, full-time, parenthetically, benefit eligible.
Yeah, that would be a
Good suggestion.
Yeah, that would be a good idea. And remember that this distinction is for qualifying people to be part of the plan. It has nothing to do with who pays how much. So you could say for people, you have to say for anybody with 30 hours or more that you're going to pay 100% of the premium. If somebody is defined as eligible at 24 hours, you could say, well, at that level, we'll only pay 60% or only 50%. So those are two independent factors. One, who's eligible to join. Two, who gets to pay how much.
And that's set by each school, so the premium share, and that's not changing.
Although they're subject to affordability rules if you're a large employer, which will be covered later.
But not imposed by the MIWA, imposed by the Affordable Care Act.
Right. Going on, in addition to full-time and part-time, the adoption agreement, participation agreement allows schools to specify excluded categories. Employees in the following job classifications are not eligible. We've provided some suggestions of what typically might be excluded. And we've also provided an other space to fill in the blank. Caveat again, of course, is that if you are a large employer and anybody picked up in this section meets the Affordable Care Act definition of a full-time employee, there's potential penalty exposure.
Yes.
Is there any exposure for us if we're all abiding by the Affordable Care Act, but a school, one of the member schools is not abiding by the regulations of the ACA?
So if you're talking about the employer mandate, which is completely separate and apart from the MEWAL, you'd be facing that regardless of whether or not you were in the room if you were a large employer. That penalty for failing to comply, for failing to offer coverage to your full-time employees is on an employer-by-employer basis. So the IRS would look to each specific school, not to the plan.
The next section addresses waiting periods, and waiting periods are circumscribed by the Affordable Care Act, and this is regardless of your size, so whether you're small or large. The Affordable Care Act says that you can't have a waiting period that exceeds 90 days. So what we've done here in the first section in A, we've given some choices of either no waiting period, 30 days, 60 days, or other. And in B, we allow each school to specify the actual effective date on which participation will begin. So you combine the selections in both sections. So if your rule is you have to have 30 days of employment and you become eligible the first day of the next month, you would select A2 and B2 or B3, depending on how you administer your plan. Yes.
Can we pick A1 but still pick B2?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So if you have, essentially, the question was essentially if you have no waiting period, but you start the first of the next month, yes, you can do that.
Thank you.
Sure. And Section E gives some choices regarding who is covered as far as spouses, dependents, and domestic partners. Spousal coverage, each school can decide whether to cover opposite sex and same-sex spouses or opposite sex only. That's up to each school. The child coverage is going to be provided for as indicated, sons, daughters, and stepchildren. Domestic partner coverage, again, is available on a school-by-school basis, either not offered or meeting domestic partners that meet IBC eligibility criteria. And finally, retiree coverage, either each school can decide not to offer it, or if a school does have some form of retiree coverage, they could continue to make that available subject to their conditions and IBC's conditions, which have always existed. So really, the goal here is that there's really no change, as Bob has said, there's no change to your practices on these points. Sure.
Can we change that year to year? Let's just say we decide we are completely now an retiree, that would be something each year if we do a renewal, we would change?
Yeah, the question was, can you change the Section E each year? And the answer is yes, you can change any of this each year.
And the other thing that could happen is choices may be taken away from you by the state. I mean, just last night it was announced that gay marriage is allowed in the state of Pennsylvania now, and that, I don't know if in combination with other laws that will wind up taking the choice in A and take it away. You know, you may not have any choice about you may not have any choice about that in the future. So these things will change over time. What we've done is we've left as much choice as the laws allow and as our relationship with IBC allows to continue to give you those eligibility choices that you've had in the past. Now, in the future, will any of that stuff change? It's always possible. These are important tools for you to use in keeping your employees happy, in recruiting employees and keeping employees. But you want to use them carefully because the breadth of eligibility that you allow could work against the health of the plan. So you want to use all these rights and privileges carefully.
Section C, again, if you're a small employer, you do not have to fill that section out.
The question was whether a small employer does not need to complete Section C. The answer is every employer needs to complete Section C. If you're a small employer, you're not going to be subject to the Affordable Care Act constraints on full-time employees.
Question, for C and D, for the domestic partner and retiree coverage, if our policies are silent currently as to that, should we be incorporating some decision on that? We should? Okay.
Yeah, I
Thank
mean, you need to check yes or no. So that you do need, there does need to be a position on it.
Right, but in our policies, if they're silent, just in our handbook and our, should we be saying?
It's probably not silent in that it is telling you who is eligible. So if you say spouse, and now if you have same-sex spousal coverage, or you can get married in Pennsylvania,
Right.
then you're effectively extending coverage to same-sex
Right.
spouses.
Right,
Now, if you're silent on domestic partnership coverage, then you don't have
provide
it.
okay. Okay, thanks.
The people online might have just been disconnected, so we can talk about them now.
We need to talk about the other documents. Right? Yeah, okay, so this is the most important document. This is the one that you actually have to fill out and return. All the other documents are of importance to you so you understand what you're signing up for. But what's going to happen to this, this form that you fill out, I think it's 7 pages. 2 pages, or I forget how many pages it is. The first 2 pages ask you questions. You'll answer what the policy of your school is. The additional pages, the terms and conditions, are things that you're agreeing to, and there's a sign-up sheet. What will happen to this document going forward is your answers to the questions on the participation agreement, plus your selection of plans for your particular school off of the palette that IBC offers, that Paisboa offers from IBC and from Delta. All that will be concentrated into a 1 or 2 page cover sheet to your plan document. So all of us will hand out the same plan document in SPD. It'll be pretty much identical. What will make it unique to our individual school is the answers to the what's this thing called, the PA, the participation agreement. So your cover sheet for your documents, as you hand them out to all your employees, probably for the first time ever or in 20 years, you will finally be satisfying ERISA in giving your folks a plan document for their health plan. The cover sheet will show what makes that unique to your school. This is in every way analogous to what you do for your 403B retirement plan, okay? There's a bunch of boilerplate that has to do with every TI crap, you know, everybody who has a 403B plan. And then there are those features which you choose school by school, institution by institution to characterize your own school's plan. So again, on the theme of continuity, this may not be continuous with what you did last year, but it will be continuous with what you should have done last year. I don't know if those of you recall at one of our meetings, I think it was the August meeting, maybe it was later than that, we asked this group, anybody who had a sample SPD, a plan plus summary plan description, 20 people put up their hands. We asked them to send them in. We got 0. The reason we think we got 0 is that nobody really had that plan. They had something in their employee manual or something from Blue Cross that captured all of those questions, but probably none of us, or very few of us actually, as we were supposed to do by law, filled out a form and handed it to employees every year. In the future, this is something that's going to be accomplished for you by the trust. This load is off your shoulders. You're going to find several other loads that are off your shoulders. You know, all the information you need for that 5,500 has to go in. The trust is going to do it. All the compliance stuff that you're going to need to do for the ACA, we're going to help you do. So, so anyway, on the theme of continuity, there's really nothing new here, and yet it is new. The content is not new. The form is new. Okay, I'm going to hand this back to Harry and Tora to talk about the other documents.
Do you have a question in the back?
Yeah. When you say this plan document, this plan document right now only covers those first 4 things related to health. We still offer pre-tax deductions for flexible spending accounts, and we have a section 125 for that. So I still would have to give that out as well.
That's correct. So when you go back a few slides ago, there were the plans on the left and the right. And so on the left is the health plan, WRAP plan that has the dental, the vision, the RX, and the medical. And then on the right is the 125 cafeteria flexible benefit plan that each school continues to maintain. And that's where you'd find your FSAs today.
Yeah. One of the discoveries that the trustees and the TPA committee made while we were in mid-flight, in mid-process, we started out saying really the only thing we had to worry about was health insurance because we needed to comply with ACA. And we realized in discussion with our TPA candidates that for us to not include as much as we could reasonably include in the first year would be a disservice to our members. So had we the ability to include everything, we would do that because this is the right tool and the right relationship with Business Solver to satisfy all those requirements. So as we move forward, to the extent that our members wish us to do so, and to the extent they're wishing to comply in one plan, we will include it in the trust. Yeah, I think you want to. Is there anything you want to say about those other documents? Boilerplate. John?
Sure. Thank you, Harry. Thank you, Tora. So at this point, actually, we're going to make a shift over from talking about the MIWA and in terms of the documents, participation agreements, and all the governance that's applicable to that aspect to the third-party administrator. And we have Mike Meyering to my left shoulder and Mr. Steve English, who has not taken his finger off of his chin
Wait a
for an
second,
hour.
Mr. Copilot. I was supposed to introduce this. This is a presentation by Mike and the John Dells, okay? In this presentation, Mike's going to have center stage, but John and John are going to be his backup singers because they are going to be his partners day by day as we implement this plan. This is Mr. Boots on the ground, okay? To the extent that somebody needs to show up at your office and help you get integrated with the system, talk to you on the phone, not only are you going to have the services of our main singers from Business Solver, but the backup singers from Armstrong Doyle Carroll, okay? So enjoy the duet.
All right, thank you. Did we work on our harmonies?
Yeah.
You had the high parts, I believe.
Yeah,
Right?
you got it.
Before we shift over there, if there's any questions, both either in the room or those of you that are online with the webinar, relevant to the MIWA, you can pose those now. You can pose those, obviously, after the meeting at a general open Q&A session. But I do want to encourage anyone who is on the webinar who is unable to obviously physically raise their hand to use the tool to pose the question. Colleen Atwood over to the dais side will be able to articulate those for the room. We have our friends from Venable. They're the subject matter experts in regards to the MIWA orchestration, so we want them to field those, and we want people to be able to leave this conversation clear as to what we're accomplishing. Okay, so I just wanted to make that pitch there. Now, turning the page, we're going to move into the third-party administration aspects of the conversation. And what I like to do, and it might be somewhat simplistic, but that's how I operate, is I like to just take a quick visual of what we have in place right now, right? What we have in place right now is Blue Cross sending out 143 independent individual invoices to all of the Paisboa Trust members. What we have to do moving forward, in our flight analogy that Bob has painted, is we have to send out one jumbo for the Paisboa Trust. Blue Cross is going to send that to the third-party administrator, who's then going to chop it up, send it out, collect, and remit. So Mike is now getting in between you and Blue. One thing that was mentioned, though, and I don't know if you caught this, but I felt it was really important to reiterate. Now when you get a bill and it's wrong, and I didn't say if it's wrong, I said it's wrong, there is no recourse. You pay that bill, and you let it wash out in the next month, right? We're all familiar with this process. We've had years of being beaten into submission, and this is just the way that we operate. Okay. Look at this. You're now going to get an invoice, and if it's due November 1, you get it October 15, and you have a period of time there to make a reconciliation and say, that's wrong. Joan Smith's husband, she came off the plan, or he came off the plan, so the bill is actually off by X. And they'll adjust it, they'll reissue, and you'd pay what you actually owe. So for the first time in your entire relationship with Independence Blue Cross, you'll actually have accurate statements. I just thought that was like, woo, amazing. You might get it, look at it and say, wait, this can't be right, but that is actually the case. So that's one really compelling change that we're going to be taking into effect 11/1. The other things that we're going to go through, and I'm not going to steal any of Mike's thunder, but they're bulleted behind us here, is there's going to be opportunities for enhanced enrollment. You're going to have eligibility management, which I just talked about, because you're not paying as billed. You have a chance to reconcile that and pay an accurate statement. The premium and collection remittance process is going to be a lot more efficient and effective, and he'll speak to that as well. The reconciliation process he can get into, and then data management and reporting. The data management and reporting tools that you're going to see, he's just going to give a kind of cursory view of. But anyone who's had to deal with the W-2 reporting for the past 2 years, that's a bear. They're going to do it. Anyone who has had issues about, or kind of anxiety dreams at night about these pay-or-play mandate forces that you're going to be facing in the next couple of months, we have a tool to actually assist you with. And something that we haven't even talked about is with the pay-or-play mandate, when you actually have to send to the government reporting based on your data capture, that hasn't even been something that we've broached. And if we said it to you and told you the scope of it, you might start to cry. We have a tool to solve for that as well. So this has got a tremendous amount of upside for all of the Paisboa Trust members. We're really, really actually excited to talk about it. And I'm going to turn it over to Mike, and he'll handle the rest.
Awesome. I don't need the slides because I'm going to show you the actual system that will become the Paisboa platform. So thank you for inviting us. We're excited to be a partner. At Business Solver, we focused 30% of our business in this multiple employer welfare arrangement. So we know this space extremely well, and we've been working with these groups for over 14 years. So we're excited to work with Paisboa. What I thought I could do, instead of going through a presentation, I could just actually show you what the system would look like. So for starting out, I want to show you what an enrollment can look like, because TPA is always around how do you manage the finances, but let's talk about how we can also support your employees going online and making enrollments, if you want that to be an option. Or you as administrator can still make the enrollment on their behalf if you want to use that as an option. Or John Mannion can sit in his home at night keying in enrollment forms into the solution. So at the end of the day, you can keep things the way they are, or you can offer some more opportunities for your employees to go and be in charge of their own benefits. And the best part is, every time that employee is making a click in the system, we're taking pictures of it, and you as administrators can see that in the history. So I'm going to log in as the employee. Let's see if I can type this in here. And as I log in, the first page that we're going to pause here is, this is where the education for employees begins. So if there's information related to the Paisboa plans, if there's information related to the dental plans, this page is completely configurable. And I say configurable because I'm not an IT person, but I can make changes to this page. And the ADC team will be deploying all of the education for these pages for your employees and or your administrators. So on this page, the participation agreement form, where you're filling out your eligibility windows, that will be very important information for us as well. Do you allow your new employees 40 days to enroll, 60 days to enroll? What does that window need to look like? And we'll take that information, and the Business Solver team will be building this in the background. So you'll notice we have a live ticker for those employees, meaning when day 41 hits, that new employee will not be able to process a new employee or new hire enrollment. They would be able to process a life event throughout the year, but the system is intuitive enough that it locks the employee out from making mistakes. And will also lock the administrators out from making mistakes. You won't be able to go outside the plan rules either. So when I go through here, Bob mentioned a little bit about right now it's medical, dental, vision, prescription drug, which we will definitely support. But I also just wanted to highlight we can add those additional plans, and that is the anticipation. As the trust continues to add plans, we'll continue to build that out to your specific eligibility rules. And if you do have some plans that are outside of the trust we do have the capability to also put that in the enrollment engine. So now you're providing your employees a soup to nuts of all the benefits to be able to enroll online. So I'll just walk through this briefly just to give you a sense of what the enrollment looks like. So we have a basic information page. This is what would be loaded into our system. This is on that file that we're going to receive from Independence Blue Cross initially, so we'll know all your current employees. Your new employees, you'll be able to add those into the system as they come to your organization, and this information will be presented to make sure it's accurate. So your employees will be able to add dependents, and we will build the dependent rules based on your requirements. So to the same sex, domestic partner, things like that in the WASH, we'll build that behind the scenes so that your employees will only be able to enroll dependents up to your eligibility rules, such as if you allow for children maybe over the age of 26 if they're handicapped. We can capture that information here. I'll just continue moving forward as an employee only here. We will present your plan options. So if you allow your employees to have multiple plan choices, they will see multiple plan choices under the medical field. If it's just one, it's just one. Now, if you have union employees, or if you have different eligibility classes, like salaried employees may have 2 plan options, and perhaps the hourly folks have 3. Well, based on your employee attribute, when you walk in, you're only going to see the plans that you're eligible for. So again, we have areas that we can add additional education, and we'll be working with Armstrong, Doyle, and Carroll on what information we can partner with and collaborate on with Independence Blue Cross, whether that's adding videos to help understand plans, whether that's creating what we call an online reference center, which is really a benefits library. We want to put whatever information helps those employees make the right benefit choice for them available here. And the best part is, this is available to you as an administrator. So if you still want to enroll those employees on the platform, you can have access to the same education material right at your fingertips. So you can go in here and you can help them make that selection. So when I enroll in a plan, I will go ahead and choose who I'd like to cover. You're noticing that I'm not choosing the tier. I'm just choosing, this is the plan I'd like, this is who I want to cover, and then it's going to present to us what our cost is. And we're going to do that in your employee's pay period, pay frequency. So just so you know, if you have some folks that are paid monthly, some biweekly, semi-monthly, that's okay. We'll support it, but your employee will just see it in their pay frequency. If you have a wellness program, which I know that we have a wellness program, we can integrate the incentives. So you can incentivize your employees to participate, maybe in a health risk assessment. And the way that we do that is a couple of different ways, but this is an example of one. So we want to penalize anyone that is a smoker. So we can present the question to the employee or to the administrator, have you smoked in the last 12 months? If they say that yes, they have, well, we're going to increase that. So this becomes more than just an enrollment tool. You can start driving your employees towards different incentives and towards different outcomes. Question?
Yes. So I have one online. Does this eliminate the need for IBX pieces, web pages for each employee?
No. I'll repeat the question. That's okay. The question is from online. Does Business Solver replace the need for the existing IBC pages? Well, you have to think about that in 2 compartments. The first one is the IBC portal. So anyone who in here is a business administrator, you know you've gone onto the IBC portal for the last 20 years and you've added and changed, et cetera. This does replace that. The data feeds will now go to Business Solver. This is going to be their functionality. We're going to spend the next 6 months going to you, sitting down, and learning how to work this to your satisfaction. Also, I'm not going to scroll it well. There's a Paisboa flock of geese up here. It's completely tailorable. St. Joe Prep wants to put up the St. Joe Prep logo, go for it. Shipley, GA, Friend Select, it's all tailorable. Videos that meet your need, etc. This is your web page, not a global. So that's the first part. The IBC portal is going to be replaced by this incredibly enhanced functionality. The second piece is the member portal, Colleen. And the member portal is IB Express. That still exists. It's charming. And if you'd like to take a look at it, you certainly can. And Andrea will actually speak to it a little bit later in the presentation. That's down to the member level. And that's information as it relates to their specific health plan coverage options. And if they're on a health savings account, a high deductible plan, it will have that data too. This is for the administrator So the IBC portal is gone, but IB Express for the member still stays up and running.
All right, thank you. Thank you for the question. So we've enrolled in a high deductible health plan. I'm going to move forward. Just showing you again, we're not collecting the HSA information this year. However, the system's intuitive. So if you enroll in a high deductible health plan, a consumer-driven health plan, if it's eligible for an HSA, it will present this to that particular employee. And you'll notice 16 pay periods are remaining. So what we have found with our work with education groups, you all have very interesting pay schedules. So we have the ability to actually take your pay schedule and put that into the system, and it will show the employee how much would be taken based on how many pay schedules are left in the year. I'm going to go ahead and waive the coverage. I'll move on. You'll notice that we have all of your HSA legalese throughout the process as well. Lots of catches. Again, when we get to the dental page, we present the plans that the employee is eligible for. They simply choose the plan, choose if they would like to cover. We show them what the expense is going to be, and they move forward. Having the ability to capture waive reasons, we've had that for years, and that's here. So any of these elections that are coming, that we're making in the system, you have access to full reports. So if an employee or an administrator wants to select the reason, the waive reason, they can move on. Yes?
Will our current employees need to go through this member enroll election?
Great question.
No. So the way that we do things currently is you have a few options. They can make the changes, Mindy, and you can put those into the portal yourself, all right? They can make those changes. You can send that paperwork to us, and we can make those changes.
That's what I do.
And that's what we'll continue to do. So this functionality is on a macro and micro level. If you want to continue the way that you do things currently and have Armstrong, Doyle, and Carroll process these changes, we're more than happy to do that for you. So in the past where we've taken your applications and gone back to our offices and made those changes, we'll continue to do so. However, it does allow the functionality of pushing it down to the employee level. And that's been broached as well. Some employer groups have said to us, we would really like to get rid of paper. We would really like to go to smartphones. And this allows for that. Now, if that is something that is interesting to you, but not applicable for 14-15, fine, table it. But it always exists, and it's always able to be turned on at any time for the future.
What about the employees that are hired at the end of August for 9/1?
We're going to do that as it currently stands into the IBC portal, and then this goes live 11/1.
Okay.
A word from our sponsor. We worked really hard to come up with a vendor who, for an affordable price, could provide the access to the database system directly to the employees. We're not insisting on the fact that you use that, but that's the direction you want to move in for a couple reasons. John should really be spending those evenings with his children, not with your forms, okay? He's willing to do it. He's willing to do, oh, he's got the kids doing the work. Okay, so now we got a child labor claim. I hadn't realized, when I talk to the insurance people, I'm going to make sure we're insured for that. Every person you put in line between the employee and their health insurance choices, okay, creates potential for error. We have gone to great lengths, and Business Solver's gone to incredibly great lengths, as you can see, to create an intelligent system that guides your employees surely, securely, to signing up for what they want to have and only what they can have according to your plan. All right, so if you're doing the work for them, or you're having John do the work for you for them, put a couple more people in the chain, at every step there's a potential for error, and you own the error, okay? And the trust owns the error. We're going to great lengths to make sure there aren't any errors, because we're not paying all this money for health insurance to have an employee erroneously excluded from the coverage that they want to have, that you want to pay for them. And while Tora and Harry didn't make a point of this, understand that on the eligibility stuff, the last place you want to be in is where you're paying thousands and thousands of dollars per employee to have them insured. Okay, and then because you made a mistake on one employee and how you classified them as full-time or not full-time, or miscalculated their hours, whatever it is, that you wind up with a penalty based on your total employee count per employee, a couple $1,000s per employee penalty, in addition to the cost that you put in the health care. We intend to work as carefully as possible to make that impossible to happen and to help you understand what you have to do. That's the June 4th presentation that you might want to attend. But believe me, the key thing here is reliable data, a reliable connection from the person who chooses something to getting it entered properly in the system. So what I would encourage everybody, do what you have to this year to get signed up. But over time, make sure that you're moving in the direction of making this available to your employees. It empowers them. It's customized for them. When they go online, they're not going to look at what Delaware Valley has to offer. They're going to look at what your school has to offer. The environment that they look at will be customized to them and to your school's requirements. It couldn't be any better. So in the training, we'll be there to help employees learn how to do it. So I encourage you strongly, even in the first year, whatever you're used to, as many of your employees you can get to do this directly will be an advantage. That's the sponsor.
So one thing you did say is about the information being secure. So we're living through a breach of our payroll provider right now.
Yep.
So one thing I'd like to know is what steps are going to be in place to ensure the security of our subscribers' information?
That's a fantastic question. I'm so excited that you brought that up because oddly enough, that is something I love to talk about, is the security of our system. There's a lot of different things that vendors like ourselves do. The very first thing is called an SSA E16 SOC Type 2 report, which is basically an audit, an external. We hire a third-party auditor to come in, do an audit on our controls. Okay, but that's our controls that we have in place. They say yes, they're appropriate. They say no, they're not. We provide that to the trust. We will give that information to the trust. In addition to that, we have a third-party auditor do an application scan, which means we give them administrator rights, like your accounts, and see if they can get to areas of the system that they cannot. We also do a network penetration scan. What that means is we hire hackers to try to hack into our system to get access to any of the data that's within the system. Outside of just those security practices, we also have some clients. One of them is the third largest credit card processor in the nation. They bring on their information technology security people on an annual basis to do a review of our code, of the actual code that has created the system, which is our own code. Our data storage facility also provides the same SSA E16 documentation around the security practices and protocols that they're in place. You cannot access our servers without going through a 3-step process to get into our data storage facility. In addition to those pieces, we also have a large segment of business in the banking industry outside of the credit card processing, as well as technology industry. And those industries also will require that same documentation to be provided to them. So those are the protocols we're putting in place, and we're happy to share that information at any point in time. I will also add that we have the highest limits of cyber tech insurance policy to make sure that you're covered if anything should happen. Okay, that's something that we're committed to as an organization in this particular industry. Our president and CEO came from an insurance background, so he believes in risk management, and those are some of the things that we're doing.
Adam, just an anecdotal point. When we were doing the TPA review, Target had just been breached. So it was a very kind of a key moment to have this conversation with all the vendors, and the TPA committee members who were present in the room remember that we talked about that breach and asked the vendors at that time, what do you have to prevent for such an occurrence? And we were very satisfied with their answer.
We have a question here.
If we have our employees go ahead and go online to put their information in, I'm assuming that there are some level of reports out there for us to see who has or has not signed up so that we can ensure that everybody who's eligible has done something?
Absolutely. Yep. So the question around what data can you get out as an administrator, it can come in a myriad of different ways. You'll have access to reports that you can go in, push the button and run it yourself. We can also push reports out to you. So if you have a payroll vendor that can take a deduction file, we can make that connection. So if an employee makes a change here, we're going to update your payroll vendor using some secure file connection protocols there. Yes. Yep. So the question is, if we enter an employee into our HR system, can we feed a file with that data to Business Solver, have the employee enroll in the Business Solver platform, and then feed that information back to the HR system? And yes, we call that closed loop payroll. Is there an added cost for that is the question? Yes, there is a one-time setup fee. That is correct, because it will take the work to actually set up that connection between, and also we configure our system to accept your file feed. So we don't have file requirements as far as what's sent to us.
You just answered the question.
I answered, okay.
Good bet we get the invoice on the 15th, and we have basically the 22nd to get it correct. If we miss something in that time frame, catch it next month. Can we recoup it a month or two later?
Yes. So the question is, if we get the invoice on the 15th and we miss something that needed to be corrected by the 22nd, can we recoup that in the following month? Here's the best part. Our system will automatically reconcile that for you. So if you're on vacation and you forgot to terminate, or someone was terminated and you didn't catch it with that invoice, the system will know when you get back from vacation and you enter that termination into the platform, it will apply all the applicable billing rules so that you'll automatically receive that credit. It automatically reconciles it for you. And that will be based on the exact data we just sent to Independence Blue Cross Blue Shield.
So that means in paying the invoices, we're going to bypass IBX, going into that system and reconciling our invoices? Okay.
So the question is, are we bypassing IBX and paying the invoices? And the answer is, for the trust plans, yes. Okay. Yep, we have another question.
It says, is there any way the technical training for Business Solver can be handled separately than the more global issues of the MIWA and trust?
Yes. So there will be a lot of training opportunities. We'll have live webinars running. We'll have Armstrong, Doyle, and Carroll, who are subject matter experts on the system, being able to go out and sit down with everyone, walking through the administrator tools. And there's a lot of administrator tools and power here. So we will definitely go through a lot of different training. Yep. So I'll finish up our employee enrollment here. Just again, we'll be able to capture your benefit elections online. Employees, administrators, or Armstrong, Doyle, and Carroll can all get those. Oh, we have another question. Sorry.
Will COBRA still be handled through your office, or will we have to administer it through this system?
COBRA will be administered in the system for the trust plans. So just to walk through what that means and what that looks like. If an employee terminates on the 15th of the month and your plan rules allow that plan effective date to be the end of the month, as soon as that termination hits our system, a qualifying event notification is automatically generated and is printed within 24 hours and sent out to that particular employee. Then that employee has the opportunity to sign up for their COBRA. They will submit that back to our office. Business Solver will send out payment coupons to those particular COBRA participants. We will collect all of those funds, but this will be at the plan sponsor level. So we'll be able to take the money for the overall Paisboa Trust. We'll be able to remit that payment to IBC for those COBRA participants, and you'll all receive reports with your invoices that show any COBRA activity that's taken place. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to log out here.
One question. We currently we're a church-related organization, so we're not obligated to offer COBRA, but we do a COBRA-like benefit. Our current TPA customizes the letters and the notices to not include COBRA language, if you will. Is that something you could do as well, or is it strictly limited to COBRA language?
Great question. And we have in the past, we have an association of churches. And in the past, same type of situation where they have non-COBRA specific forms. We do have the capability to do that. We would just want to sit down with you and Armstrong, Doyle, Carroll, make sure that we're all in lockstep on what that looks like, what the process needs to be. And if you're not comfortable with Business Solver administering that, we could potentially talk about making a file connection to your particular COBRA provider as well, or extended coverage provider.
Okay, great.
All right. Well, I will log out, and I'm going to log in as an administrator to show you the different side of just high level what will it look like with your type of access. So the first thing that I'm going to draw our attention to, we have enrollments in the system, and now let's talk about the TPA service. How do we make the money happen, right? Well, when you log in, you'll have an administrator dashboard. This dashboard is going to show you everything that's taking place in your system. Who's making enrollment, who's completed enrollment, where they are in the process. But you'll also see you're going to get a notification your invoices are ready for review. So when you log in, you'll notice our invoices are ready. We have direction, go grab our invoice. You can go out to the Billing Invoice Document Center, and what you'll be able to do is grab the folder and grab your remittance invoice. Now, this is just going to be a sample document. This isn't the end-all, be-all, if you will. Let's see if it pulls this up here. Got to be patient. I don't like patience. Well, let's see here. And by the way, what you're going to see is not real data, so we're not going to be violating any type of HIPAA violations here. For some reason, it is not wanting to open a PDF file. And I don't know if PDF is not stored on this. Anyways, well, I can send a follow-up sample of what the invoice can look like. However, what it's going to do is it's going to give you two things that are going to be really important. First will be a summary. It's going to show how many employees were enrolled in the trust plans, what the premiums are attached to those trust plans, and tell you what the dollar amount is to put into the account or to ship off to pay for the benefits for that particular month. Now, the second component to this, which we would call summary, the second component to this is a full detailed statement. What that means is you will have a list of every single employee within your organization and what benefits they were enrolled in for that particular billing month. And it will show the premium attached to that particular employee. And if there was an adjustment that was required, you'll also see that automatic adjustment that was placed in there. You'll see the credit or the debit on that as well. So it'll be full, transparent invoicing that is made available to you on a monthly basis. You can see that you're going to be able to review this information, go back, go forward, wherever you want to take this, and so you can monitor the benefit spend that your organization has had. You can look at the different changes that have taken place, and all going to be available online. So if any of you are tablet device users, or I saw a couple of people playing on iPhones, you can hit the website from your iPhone, from your tablet device, and you can go and grab that information if you're on the road at a conference, perhaps in Radnor, listening to June 4th, Armstrong, Doyle, and Carroll on ACA and their scary story. So what's going on in the back end? Because IBC and Business Solver have to communicate enrollment and eligibility. Here is one thing that we will be doing for you, which we call exports. Exporting your enrollment data to your insurance carriers. This is a dashboard. You don't have to know anything about this, but what is happening is very important. At Business Solver, we have a team dedicated to checking in files that were sent to your carriers. What that means is we make sure that they receive the file, that they loaded the file, and if there are any enrollment errors or kickouts from that file connection, our team is on it. Every morning at 8 a.m. Central Time, Des Moines, Iowa, your team is reviewing your file connections, and if there's any issues that take place, it's updated, it's corrected, and we're resending the file within the same day. It's a very proactive approach. Why do we go proactive? Why is it this much of an investment? Your employee shows up at the dentist's office and they're not covered, they're calling you, and that's a hassle. And then we're sitting there saying, we sent it to the carrier, and the carrier says, no, you didn't. Not anymore. We're partners. We're all in this together. This is a large organization. There's a lot of moving components. It's 100% transparent. Armstrong, Doyle, and Carroll have access to this dashboard. They can look at the actual 834 EDI 5010 file we sent that morning and see the data components. So it's very transparent, all of our services and activity here. So the other piece that I talked about was reports that you can get out of the system. As an administrator, you're going to have lots of reports, probably more than you may ever use. But high level, one of the things that we feel is important is you can access any data that's in the system. So we call these boardroom ready reports. What this is representing is the graphical representation of your employee population today. You can see the different genders, age, salary bands, who has children, who doesn't. You can dig into this and make these Excel reports so you can get the detail of what's creating the pie chart. You can look at the different enrollments by plan, and these are all available to you any point in time you want to log into the system and access this data. So these reports will cover off on all the plan offerings that you're currently offering. This is what Armstrong, Doyle, and Carroll's view would look like with 25 different plan options. Your plan dashboard may look a little bit more like this. So we want to give you the tools necessary so that you can make the benefit elections and decisions that you need to based on the catalog of plans that you're offered with the trust. And so we provide the data here. It's your data. You can access it whenever you want, and you can get it in whatever format you like. If you like charts and graphs, here you go. If you like Excel reports, we have over 45 different reports that you can go out and run on all aspects of what's happening within your system. And I've way gone over my time. Hopefully I'm not getting kicked out yet.
The data, so some of the data will come from what Blue Cross sends. What's the HR manager, business manager, what's our part? Yes, you said 6 months, but really it's about 4 months. So.
What's your part? Okay. Well, first of all, again, I need to repeat that there were about 8 schools, but in the midst of this conversation, I got 2 emails. So we're down to 6. If you did not complete this form, we need it. We need it by Monday so that I can send all of this data for all of your employees and all of the structures of the plans, et cetera, so they can build the back end. When we get the renewals, you're going to make an election. So Episcopal is going to say, John, we want to go with these plans. Fine. We're going to indicate that to Business Solver. We're going to send that over to Business Solver. They're going to build that as the elections on their back end. They're going to adhere to the business rules that you have established. We're going to have to do this 143 times because every school is going to be different. Every school is going to have different plans, but the same rates. So while it sounds monstrous, it's my problem. It's not yours. You're just going to give us that information. Mike and I are going to work together in tandem. We're going to figure out the structure for it. We're going to test it, and then we're going to go live. In order to figure out how to work these systems, OSIN, we're going to have those webinars as you talked about, and we're going to sit down with you at your offices to go through exactly how it works. Now, it's intuitive, and it seems like a lot at the beginning, but if my 8-year-old can download a song from iTunes, then we can figure this out. It's an intuitive system both on the administrator side and on the employee side, and it's going to grow with us over time as we get acclimated. Lastly, if you can navigate Blue Cross's portal, you can do anything, okay? I say that with peace and love. Thank you. So your responsibility is to work with us in terms of getting the data over, but we've gotten that from 98% of people. Once we get that data over, we'll do the build, we'll do the training, and then we'll make the election changes come open enrollment season. We'll make the updates per your decisions, and then we'll go live with testing and actuality. Yes?
I have 3 questions from our online audience. The first one is from a few minutes ago. Are there additional costs for the COBRA services, or is it part of the basic service?
Part of the basic service, there is no additional cost.
Who will provide training to our employees for the online enrollment component?
When it comes to employee training, we can do that in 2 forms. We can do that on canned webinar basis for them to tune into and watch how to work it, or we can actually do group settings for them if we wanted to have a 5-10 minute faculty meeting session where Armstrong, Doyle, and Carroll come out, go through the benefits, go through the online. That is absolutely doable. One point I want to make about that, when we had the TPA committee, which was made up of, and I want to make sure that I kind of give these people credit, okay, Casey from Eastern. She has an online system, B-Swift. Helen Zaglinski, Christine Schaefer, University of the Arts. They have an online system. Joan Barone was in the room as well. We had Michelle Todd, who uses ADP. We had Soph Horn and Rosalie from University of the Sciences. They have systems. All of these teams with absolute expertise in this area told us this is something that can be done without breaking anyone's backs. Your employees will figure out how the system works with minimal training and will grow with them over time, and it is not something which is overly burdensome. So to allay that fear, we had representation at the selection committee tell us this is incredibly doable. Next question.
Excuse me. Will we be able to get any information on usage, for example, claims by age?
Okay, we need to put that in two different compartments. Let's be clear on that. What we're talking about with Business Solver is billing and enrollment. That's that side of the house. Bifurcate that and realize that claims still stay with Blue Cross. You're not going into Business Solver and see who's using, what drugs. That information rests entirely with Blue Cross, and Blue Cross is able to generate reports for any institution that has more than 100 lives. That's their rule, because once you get under that threshold, the claims information starts to become identifiable. And they're not willing to release that data because then they say, oh my goodness, I didn't know so-and-so had such and such. That's a HIPAA noncompliance issue. Okay? Thank you.
Can you add distribution codes into the system so you would have information on the premiums and where they're being charged within the school?
Can you add distribution codes within the system, Mike?
So when you say distribution codes, what is that in related to?
Accounts within the school's accounting system.
So an example would be like a distribution code of just a class of employees, or are you just talking about?
Right.
Yeah. So yes, we call that structure. And what that drives is overall eligibility. So then what you can do is run reports on each individual distribution code. And you can look at the enrollments by distribution code and or by structure group. And I'll just show you. We have filters on all of our reports. So we'll build it out based on your specific school needs.
Anne-Marie.
Will we be able to get a proof of coverage for a new employee on Business Solver?
Yes.
Okay, we have a couple more things to go through, so I'm going to interrupt here, and we will stay as long as you want afterwards to answer any questions that we don't get to answer while everyone's sitting down. You've heard Mike talk about the reporting capabilities of his system. They are vast, they are enormous, they are precise, and will serve as the basis for your dealing with Uncle Sam around the Affordable Care Act. So I would like John Manning to talk just for a couple minutes about the nightmare on Elm Street. In other words, what this compliance stuff is about a little bit. We'll go into it more on June 4th, and what these tools will allow you to do to contain and eliminate that as a problem for your school. John?
Thank you. I'm going to log out here, John. Oh, there it is.
There's the report.
There's the report.
I'm just gonna pop over here. Okay. So again, just a quick commercial for what we're going to be doing on June 4th. Alan pointed out to me that June 4th is actually a holiday, a Jewish holiday. So we're going to do the same session that we're doing today on a recorded basis. So anyone who's unable to attend, we'll have it recorded. You can tune in later, okay? But when we talk about the Affordable Care Act and the overwhelming amount of data that's now going to need to be collected, we have all been anxious, well, at least you should have been anxious about this burden that's about to drop on you. So we've got the pay-or-play mandate provision, which goes into effect in 2015. It goes into effect on the renewal, the anniversary date of 2015. So what's wonderful about this is it's not 1/1/15, it's 11/1/15. So we have some room, but you need to build the ark before the flood. And that's what we're going to be doing with all of this data collection that we're going to transmit over to Business Solver, and then we're going to move forward with you guys importing the data to Business Solver. And what we like to say is, they'll be ringing the bell, okay? You might have an employee who is working 32 hours, then 28, then 38, and throughout the course of that year, when you do the averaging, you have a full-time employee. You didn't give that employee benefits. That employee went to the exchange because they need health insurance by law now. One of the first questions they'll ask is, did you have access to care at your employer? They'll say no. They'll say, did you work more than 30 hours throughout the course of that year? They'll say yes. You'll then get a knock on the door. It'll be from Health and Human Services with their friends, the IRS. You'll then be assessed a fine of $2,000 times the number of employees less the first 30. So let's just use a school and let's pick on St. Joe Prep. Why not? 200 employees times $2,000 less the first 30, non-deductible. And the line that we like to use here is, why make the mistake of paying all of this money for health insurance and then all of this money for a fine as well? When you think about the burden that you need to now take on in keeping compliant with this provision of the law, it is enough to make you wilt. And so what we're going to do is have the conversation on the 4th to set up the parameters of the measurement period, the administrative period, and the stability period, how that's going to move forward with us, because this is not a one-off. This is our new normal. And we're going to talk about the tools that will be in place for our large employers that they can utilize to make sure that they are compliant. So the one takeaway from today's conversation, although there are about 30 that you really needed to have, but the one that I want you to have is that worry, that fear, that sheer paranoia that might have taken over you, thinking, how do I account for that? It's there, okay? We have got a tool in place for you. Those of you that are online are not looking at me pointing to Mike Meyering, but Mike Meyering and Business Solver are going to have that solution strategy in place for us to meet the pay-or-play mandate that we're all facing in 2015. So that is going to be our June 4th conversation. Again, we'll record that and we'll do follow-up sessions to it. We'll gladly speak to you on a one-to-one basis as well if you wanted to dig down into it. But we wanted to make you well aware of the fact that we're cognizant of the issue and we have a solution for you in place. Adam.
For those of us, we track our exempt employees, our faculty.
Mm-hmm.
We don't do hours for those. So should we, in preparation for that meeting, try to get an understanding as to, what number of hours those folks are on as exempt employees we're not tracking that time?
You should, Adam, although I don't think that you need to come into the meeting on June 4th with a clear understanding of as to how that structuring should take place. We're going to have ERISA attorneys with us at that conversation, and they're going to provide information as to what you need to be thinking about. And again, we're sitting here, May 2014. We need to be building for this November 2015. So there's time, but we all need to be getting our minds together in terms of that non-exempt category and how do we actually capture that. Okay? Yes?
Just really quickly, John, it would strike me that as a school, we would say to all of our employees, make sure you come and check with us if you think you qualify for health insurance and somehow we haven't given it to you. And really, before you go look for insurance on one of the exchanges, come spend some time with us and make sure we did our averaging right and you got it. It would seem as though that's such a logical process to follow. I guess it would only be an alienated employee who would try to go do that.
Yeah, I mean, Tom, you have a benevolent look of things. I have a cynical look of things. And my job is risk management. So over at GA, they're singing Kumbaya, and they're coming into Tom's office saying, I think I should get benefits. Tom's saying, Groovy, come on, sit down, we'll plug you in. I'm worried about some institutions that might have someone in food services, someone on maintenance that is kind of just off the reservation. And when we talk about the colleges, those of you with adjunct faculty, that is a sticky wicket, and it's tough to get your hands around. So we want to just get everyone kind of categorized and just make sure that we are compliant, because again, you're paying an enormous amount for health insurance. To add to that, the fine is just salt in the wound. Question over from the webinar.
I am interested in understanding ACA but don't need to comply. Is it still worthwhile to attend the June 4th meeting?
It's not necessary to attend the June 4th meeting, but that's going to be the key information that we're going to be giving at that. So if you want to learn about it, that would be the time. Otherwise, you can read tomes of ACA. Claudine.
Has the DOL made any determination on the calculation of hours by an adjunct professor as far as advising curriculum development teaching?
They have. So the question is, in terms of our colleges, what's the determination in terms of classifying adjunct and it's 2.25 for every in-hour class. So we will go through that on June 4th, but there is a calculus that you can use. It's not clean, though, because not all adjuncts are the same. And we have some art colleges. James Gaddy's online from Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts. They do studio classes for 6 to 8 hours, and then they get time outside of that as well. So it's not clean, but we'll review that. Brittany.
I guess it's just a realization that we need to go back and look at our employment handbook to make sure that it's in line with the new policy when we talk about who's eligible for benefits.
Correct. So that's Brittany, Manor College, great question in terms of your back end, which is going to be your guidebooks and your handbooks, et cetera. Those are going to need to be in conjunction with these new mandates per the ACA.
Okay, I got to elbow you. Just one thing that might want to be added now that we've frightened you thoroughly. Tori, you want to tell us about the first year, how the first year can be a little bit less gentle than subsequent years in terms of the enforcement?
Can be more gentle.
More gentle, yes.
Yes, so this need to extend coverage to your full-time employees, the general rule is you need to make an offer of coverage to at least 95% of your full-time employees, but for 2015, that's reduced to 70%. So that first year, the 2015 year, is the year where you can put your systems in place and make sure that you're doing a good job before they ratchet it up to 95%.
Okay. So now, next, our partner of 40 years, IBC. She looks a little bit younger for being a partner of 40 years, but I'm sure she's been somebody's partner in the universe for 40 years. So Andrea Beaton from IBC is going to talk to us about our new partnership, because organizationally it is a new partnership, consistent with the past but new, and some issues in IBC of their new platform. Andrea?
Thank you, Bob. So I just want to push that back a little. So thank you, everyone, and thank you to Armstrong, Doyle, and Carol and the team here for including me as a part of your agenda today. I know it's a very tight agenda, so I will try to be as quick as possible. So I'm Andrea Meehan. I'm an account executive with Independence Blue Cross. I work with Lori and Jenny, they're on my team, to manage the PASIG account. And there are a lot of things that are going on with Independence Blue Cross currently that we'd like to tell you about. For the PASIG schools, this is going to take place for you effective November 1st. Ultimately, in a nutshell, Independence Blue Cross is moving to a new platform, a new operating platform. And this in no way has nothing to do, this has nothing to do with the MIWA or anything that's going on here with the PASIG schools. This is entirely something that's going on with Independence Blue Cross, and it does impact all of our group customers and all of our members. So you might be wondering why we are moving to a new platform. Over the last several years, Independence Blue Cross has really been dedicated to transforming how we deliver healthcare, especially in this market. So we recognize all the changes that are needed from federal regulations and compliance, et cetera. And we realize that the systems and the capabilities that we have in place today, frankly, we're not going to cut it. So rather than making minor tweaks and enhancements to the programs that we have today, we looked out to the market to find a new business partner, a new vendor partner. And we found one with Highmark, who is our cousin company out in the Pittsburgh area. So we are going to engage with them, or we are engaging with them in a new vendor relationship. So a major component of trying to transform the delivery of healthcare are technology enhancements. So we really gain these efficiencies by partnering with Highmark. So how does this affect the people in this room? So if you've lived through prior migrations with us, we've taken the approach that we're going to do it all at once, and that's not the case here. So with this migration, we are taking a renewal-based approach. So we started in January of 2014. We started with our small group market. We took our small employer groups and moved them to the new platform effective January 14. We took about 2 months off. We reassessed the situation. We made some tweaks, some enhancements to the process. And then we picked back up again in April. So the good news is, for everyone in this room, this will take effect for you, meaning the new platform will begin with the PASIG schools effective November 1st. So the good news is we will have successfully migrated, 8 series of migrations to the new platform by the time we get to you. So we should be well seasoned in migrating our groups to the new platform. So just to hit on a couple of key notes, key changes for the people in this room in terms of our group customers. One of the changes will be to your account structure. So, for example, on the new platform, we are required to provide 8-digit group numbers. So that means everyone, for all of your plans that exist today, for all of your group numbers that exist today, you will be getting all new group numbers, and they will be 8 digits. Today, they're 6 digits. You may be familiar with, you have a group number, and then within that group number, you have account numbers that relate to your bill. In the future, on the new platform, there are no such thing as account numbers. So it's going to be a group number only. And a group number will exist in a one-to-one relationship with a benefit option. So for example, if you have 2 Keystone products housed under one group number today, going forward on the new platform, it'll be one HMO to one group number, one point of service to another group number. So that may result in additional group numbers for some of you, but these are the changes that are taking place with the new platform. The other thing I wanted to make mention is there are a lot of enhancements to the employer portal. Now, I understand with the new partnership with Business Solver, you're probably not going to be accessing IB Express on the group portal side as frequently, but it will have a new, cleaner look and feel to it. So effective November 1st, if you do log on to, the IBX group portal, whether you want to pull, IBC forms or view SBC documents, it will have a different look and feel to it. There will be no need to re-register or anything like that. Anyone who has access to your group portal today will continue to have access on the new platform. So now definitely would be a good time to take a look at those people who may not have worked at your school for about 20 years and are still designated as a delegate on the group portal. You might want to clean that up now. So that's really the customer experience. That sums up or really highlights the customer experience on the new platform. But how is this going to impact your members and your employees? One minor thing, is that everyone is going to get a new ID card. And the reason for that is because each member is going to be issued a new ID number. So on the new platform, we're moving to a 12-digit UMI number. It's a unique member number. Today, it's a 10-digit number. So this is the reason for mass issuing ID cards to everyone. So regardless of your plan changes, regardless of open enrollment changes, just be mindful that new ID cards are going to be sent out to all employees as well as their dependents.
I need to really kind of stress this point. Okay, new ID cards, regardless of you making a change or not. Do nothing, you still get new ID cards.
Right.
Here's the thing. Your employees go to the doctor November 1st with their old ID card. Denied.
Not the case.
Not the case?
No.
If they go to use that old ID number, they're going to get access?
That's the plan. Yes, Cindy.
So cards in general have never gone smoothly.
Mhm.
Card issues.
Safe to say.
Well said.
So what is the deadline for the plan changes that are affected?
That is a very good point, which I will get to, but I will get to that. So as John had mentioned, when your employees are going to seek care for the first time after they are on the new platform, whether it be November 1st or November 10th, we have been doing a ton of communications to the provider community to put crosswalks, we're calling them crosswalks, in place. So for example, if someone does go to the pharmacy with their old ID number, their old ID card, pharmacies and doctors should be able to access in our provider eligibility system the crosswalk that links someone from their old information to their new information. I mean, a lot of thought went into this. Obviously, access to care is a priority for us, so we want to make sure that access to care goes as smoothly as possible. Am I going to stand up here and say that there will not be hiccups? No. However, we are really putting as many safeguards as possible into preventing that from happening.
Answer her next question.
Right now? Okay. Okay, so in terms of plan changes, there is a ton of coordination going on to migrate your group, your members, everything to the new platform. So with that being said, we are going to ask for everyone to confirm plan changes for November 1st, a little bit earlier this year. Typically, we ask for between 30 and 45 days prior to your renewal date. This year, we're going to ask for 60 days, and that means September 1st. And so as Bob had mentioned...
Wait.
We're working on this.
We are working on it. And this is we're setting the expectation, for us to prepare everything for the November 1st effective date and to have cards issued effectively. This is what we're asking for by that deadline.
This is why we only let Andrea have one slide today. But let me just repeat that point, okay? So because of the new ID card issue, and because of this crosswalking, and because of all their back-end changes, we need to have a compressed timeline. 9/1, we have already told her, is impossible. It's not doable. We've always operated on have your changes made by 10/1 for cards to go out 11/1, 30-day lead time. It's not 1952. We can process these things with speed. She is just being upfront with us and saying these are the established guidelines from her company. So we're hearing that, but urging them to work with us because you won't have staff back in that time frame. So you'd be giving a presentation to an empty room. Not doable. But we wanted to just make sure that you're aware of these issues. We are trying to work with them. Information will be coming out to update you on that.
Right. And actually, let me make one point of clarification. So when I said the September 1st deadline, we're really looking for your confirmed plan changes at your school level by September 1st. Open enrollment changes at the member level, which is all going to come through a nice file feed from Business Solver, that will be around October 1st. So I hope that puts your mind at ease a little bit. So the confirmation we're looking for September 1st is really confirming your plan options for November 1. And one thing I'd like to add, I know this has been communicated to many of the schools, I just wanted to reiterate this message, is that effective November 1st, IBC is going to ask all of the schools to limit their plan offerings to no more than 3 medical plans. If you have a high deductible health plan in addition to that, it can be 4. But for those schools that may have 5 or 6 options, we're really looking for you to condense that to 3 medical plans, 4 if you have a high deductible health plan. And that is an Independence Blue Cross underwriting guideline that we're asking the schools to become compliant with. Yes. No, none of this has anything to do with the change from Quest to LabCorp. And if people don't know what that is, effective July 1st, Independence Blue Cross has selected an exclusive company to do lab work, which is going to be LabCorp. And if you're wondering about member communications, we were actually just updated this week that we will be issuing letters. There's a letter for PPO members and a letter for Keystone members about this change. So those letters will be going out within the next week and a half.
So we're going to get new cards July 1 and November 1.
Yes.
The new cards, correct me if I'm wrong, ladies, over in the corner of the room, for the change in LabCorp will be issued to Keystone members only because it does note your capitated lab on your ID card. PPO members should not receive a new card for July 1. Everyone will receive a new card for November 1. It's not ideal, I know.
Everyone's asking me questions, so I'm happy to clarify.
I understand. Thank you for your question.
Why is this change being made?
Why is this change being made? For the platform transformation?
No,
From Quest to LabCorp? Honestly, I don't have a ton of information to support that. I don't. I can get back to you with that. Sure, absolutely.
Colleen.
Is IBC requiring the number of plans or requesting it? Also, is it a term or condition in the trust?
It is a requirement by Independence Blue Cross. It's something that we have really technically gotten away from over the past several years. It is part of our underwriting guidelines. So I would assume it's being mandated by the trust. Okay, just a couple more things to tie up. From the member experience, there will be a new member portal. It will just have a new look and feel. There will be enhanced capabilities in terms of, searching for a member's claim history, pulling up an ID card, printing a temporary ID card. Those enhancements will take effect November 1st. Our Healthy Lifestyles programs are also, you're going to see a minor change to those. Ultimately, all of our health and wellness programs are going to come under one umbrella called Healthy Lifestyle Solutions, and there's going to be efficiencies in how members get reimbursed for our 3 most popular plans, which are the fitness reimbursement, tobacco cessation, as well as weight management. Weight Watchers online will now be reimbursable, which is something that's new. The other things to take away from this is that there's no more enrollment required for any more of these programs. So for example, in the fitness program, you don't have to pre-register, pre-enroll. As long as you can prove to IBC you went to the gym 120 times within a year, we will send you that reimbursement. Now, obviously, you can't be reimbursed over the same time period, but they don't have to pre-enroll anymore. You can also submit electronically for your reimbursements. In fact, that's the only way we're going to be handling those going forward. They can log onto the website, upload their documents, and get a reimbursement much quicker.
Okay. As I said, we will, it's a little bit after 12, we're going to try and close. We will be here for a while if you have questions you want to ask individually. Yep.
I just want to say that I'm one of the small schools, so I'm one of the third that would have had a problem with my coverage. When we were at the annual meeting, when they did the finance report, they talked about the legal fees for this situation being something in excess of $100,000. I mean, that's a lot of money. And Paisboa did it for, I guess initially our third, our 45, 47 schools that wouldn't have made it. And I got to say thank you for protecting us.
Right. One dimension to, I'll get to you. One dimension to add to that is that while the smaller schools are the ones that were in the target this year, 2 years it would have been another third of the schools. And frankly, that affects everybody. What we've proved, and we've proved it by looking at data, is that both the size and the diversity of our collectivity of insureds adds stability, just like in nature, in an ecosystem, it adds stability to the system. We have a lot less volatility and a lot more continuity because we're not only big, but because we're diverse. So that's important to remember. We all benefit from each other's participation in this. But to wrap up a little bit so that people who need to go can go. If you decide, and we're hoping that everybody decides, to stay in the consortium, in other words, join the MIWA, then everything stays as close to the same as possible. For schools that elect not to become part of the MIWA, we can't guarantee that. The larger you are, if you drop out, the better your chances are of maintaining something similar. But that's really going to be between you and IBC, okay? For smaller institutions, the chance that you could even sign up for the same plans is very limited. So getting your participation documents in, getting signed up is really important. And here's what's important to remember. As I've said 18 times because it's the theme of the day, it's the same plan essentially. The claims are going to be pooled as in the past, collectively. The rates are going to be set collectively as in the past. The strength of our organization will be maintained. As far as any impact of belonging to the MIWA on your credit rating or anything, doesn't happen. Is there some risk, some tiny risk that didn't exist before? Yes, there is. To the extent that we can insure it, that we can legal it down, whatever we can do to minimize that risk, we're going to do it because nobody really wants it. So there's nothing left to wait for. For the people, the 6 people now who have to fill out that form, get it filled out and back to John today so we can start getting, information over to Business Solver. I'm in a hurry. Remember what you're signing, just one second. Remember what you're signing up for is 1 year, okay? When you sign up for the MIWA, you're signing up for 1 year. Next July 1st, you can drop out if you choose to. This is not a marriage for a lifetime. You don't have to put money down. Okay? Many of the fears that people had about starting a MIWA just really don't exist. The tiny bit of risk, yes, but otherwise, no. It's a year, and we've really kind of been under a year-to-year basis anyway. I think all of us assume when we sign those papers that we're going to be on the same plan for the year. Now, technically, could you drop out mid-year? Yes. But now you're going to be in for a year. You have an anniversary date on which you can decide to drop out of the MIWA, join or drop out. I want you to continue to be aggressive with your questions, with your inquiries. Do all the research work you have to do now. Get your questions in so we can get them answered, so we can remove any obstacle to meeting that July 1st deadline for each and every school in the organization. What I want to assure you is that we've done the work. I mean, people have worked hard on this. You talked about the attorneys. It takes a while to run up the bill, even at their rates. It takes a while to run up a bill of $100,000, okay? They have worked extremely hard. I feel like they're my new best friends. I don't have to look up their phone number anymore, okay? It just pops into mind. Certainly, the people on the MIWA Trust and the TPA committee have become really good friends. We, and we intend to celebrate that friendship too. So do whatever research you have to do whatever questioning you have to do, because you are separate institutions. But I want you to be assured that we've left no page unturned, and we will continue to work aggressively to make this be a positive experience for all our members. I think that's about it, except we will stay for questions. People who really have to leave should feel it's not rude to leave, but let's have your question first, and then we'll take yours. Yes, it is. You had a question?
I was actually going to ask the same thing, I don't know where we are with the status of the FFO.
Yeah, we'll be able to get back to you. I don't think we can answer that question right now. Okay, well, we're going to cut off the mic then. Thank you all for coming.